some years ago, we tend to get contact with these sales spooky persons in so many different ways, but most of the times we were not interested. They kind of tried to sell us something that we didn't need, we didn't like, we didn't want. But lately, things are changing. Thankfully, let's say it. With social media, with all these platforms, with content creation, finally, we have more options to get in touch with brands, to know what we want, and for them to listen to us, to understand our needs, to understand how to build trust and how to get engaged with us. Today, we will have Timothy Hughes to talk about this amazing book, Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers, so we can understand everything we need to know to make this social selling profitable and meaningful as well. So let's bring Tim because I think he's in the basement. I left there a glass of water as usual and some cookies. So let's welcome Timothy. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, Marco. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And you? All good?
I'm excellent. Thank you very much.
Perfect. First of all, Timothy, thank you so much for accepting my invitation. It's a pleasure and an honor. Let me share with you this. One of my great friends, and which is, he started as a professional friend and he became a personal friend, a good friend of mine, is one of the most acknowledged, recognized professionals in LinkedIn here in Portugal. I would say in Portuguese language, Pedro Caramês, and he's also um, a lover about social selling. And when I said I will have Tim Hughes on my live show, he said, "Oh my God, I'm jealous." So I'm really happy to have you here. We have here Cookbook Divas. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for stopping by. So, by the way, for those of you in the watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Amazon. Feel free to drop your questions. You have some links if you want to check my favorite tools. And we have here Tim. So take advantage of him. Okay. It's a nice way.
Absolutely.
And by the way,
Please ask questions. Please ask away. Yeah.
absolutely. So you have it highlighted right now in the Amazon's carousel. So if you are not watching this on Amazon, feel free to go to Amazon so you can check the book. We have here Ronaldo. So we are being seen in Brazil. So Tim, would you mind introduce yourself so we can start and then we can start the conversation?
Yes. Thank you so much for inviting me on and allowing me to talk about the book. Yes. So I'm based in the UK. I've been a salesperson for 25 years, and I've been involved in social media probably for the last 14 years. I was told by my boss I needed to get involved in social media. So I put a lot of the work that I've done, I blame it all on him. So I've been on Twitter for 14 years, started my own company with my business partner, Adam Gray. We're now in our 7th year. And this is my 3rd book.
Oh, great. Perfect. And we have Joanna here as well. Thank you so much, Joanna, for stopping by. Let us know if you have any questions, please. So I'm going to start by the beginning. And I think I can share this story because you mentioned this before we went live that you wrote this book in Portugal,
In Portugal, yeah.
Algarve.
In the Algarve.
but,
Yeah.
but you said something that made me a little bit crazy. You wrote this in 2 weeks. How is that possible? Though your weeks, they have how many days? 7, like myself. How is
Well,
that?
it is my 3rd book. I actually after the first one, I found a process in which to work to. So this is a 2nd edition of the first edition, which came out in. I wrote this one in 2015, and it came out in 2016. So I wasn't writing it completely from scratch, and so there was a lot of it I cut out. I added some new stuff to it. So The first book's got 187 pages, but this new second edition has got 307. In the first edition, I think there's 8 diagrams. In the second edition, there's something like 50 or something. So we as in I was there with my partner, and I would basically sit and write during the day, and then hand her the chapter and say, "Can you create some diagrams out of this?" And she'd say, "Well, what about this? What about this?" And we put it together in 2 weeks.
Nice, nice. I need to ask you this because this is something that it happens, and each day things get a little bit worse. I mean, when we talk about a book which has this platform behind, like social media platforms, sometimes we have this thing that, oh, meanwhile something changed. And how do you manage this? Like, okay, now it's over. I'm not changing anything from now on. It's over. Let's send it to the publisher. How do you manage this? Because uh, this is something that happens. Like, okay, I have this idea, and meanwhile something changed, or it will change in a couple of weeks, whatever. How do you say, okay, end it? End of story.
I think at some point you have to say, let it go to the publisher, because there's a lot of I use some data in there from a person called Simon Kemp. If for your audience, if you follow Simon Kemp, look him up on LinkedIn. He produces this. It's free, and it's the data which is all about social media, and so I was using that. So, for example, there's now 59.9% of the world's population on social media. And those people spend an average of 2 hours, 25 minutes a day on social media. That's just some of the facts that you can pull from that data. And that's gone into the book. And that comes out every quarter. So, you at some point you have to say cut and off it goes.
Yes, pretty nice. Was something that always made me curious because I believe, and for instance, when we decide, okay, this first version edition, it's a little bit outdated. We need to come up with a new one, or these new platforms arrived, these new approaches arrived. So this could be nice and interesting to understand how we juggle with these changes.
There was a number of things. The first edition it was my first book. And really the motivation behind the book was actually because my father had dementia. And unfortunately he's passed away now, but the idea behind it was that I was going to get a picture of, he was going to see it. He's going to see that his son had actually done something with his life. So that was actually my purpose behind the first book. And really I was working in corporate. I'd rolled out social selling across 4,000 people within this particular company, but it was really about, back then it was about really looking people up before you went for meetings and stuff. But then what happened was that in 2016, when the book was published, I actually set up my own company with Adam Gray, my business partner. And so what we've been able to do is take all of the experience from all the clients where we've implemented it and actually put that into the book as well. So the first edition is 187 pages, and the second edition have 306. And really that's about putting in that experience. The other thing that I wanted to do is that people still seem to think that social selling is some sort of future state. We'll move there in the future. And what I wanted to do is actually reach out to people who were doing it already. So not me, other people. I've got input from Telstra, Ring Central, Namos, which is a 120-person Oracle consultancy, Mercer, Ericsson, Cyberhawk. A headhunter friend of mine has put in about 2,000 words, and really get their advice and their input to make the book far more practical. And that's what I feel I've done. So Chris Fleming, who's the CEO of Cyberhawk, they're a drones company. They use drones to look at platforms on oil rigs and stuff. He actually talks about deciding that they were going to be a digital business. And empowering the C-level people within the business to be approachable on social media. And he did that 2 years ago. And my point being is that, if you're not a digital business, you're already 2 years behind because people are already doing this. So that was really what I wanted to do with the book, was to pull out that, the times moved on. We're living in the digital first world. You need to be doing this. There's a business imperative to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I had a question, but meanwhile, you, you changed my mind about something that you mentioned: is being innovative, pioneer, or to wait. Like, okay, maybe this will work. Let because the thing is, I don't know their team, but here in Portugal, oh, we want to be innovative. We want to be in the kind of pioneers, but let others try it, and then let's see if it works. If it works with them, maybe we can embrace that. Do you have the same feeling? And which approach, like for instance, you're a consultant and there's a company that they are thinking about this social selling approach. How do you help them to understand how powerful this is?
Well, we've been doing this for 7 years now, so it's not exactly that they're cutting ice. We have lots of clients that have done it and can show you results. And so, I mean, what we always say to those people is, what do you want? Do you want opinion or do you want data? Most people say they want data, and then when you say to them, so we've just taken this book I'm going to tell you isn't in the book because it's new from the 1st of January of this year. We took a team of people who were cold calling. They're a partner of ours. And we're measuring the data week by week by week by week. So we're now in May of 2023. So we've now got 5 months, 4.5 months of data. And what they're doing is that they're doing cold outreach, no cold calling, no spam email, anything like that. And what they're doing is that they're cold outreach but through social selling. And they're getting a 9% response. So first and foremost, for 100 people that they're contacting, 9% are coming back and saying, yes, we'll have a conversation with you. There's no way that cold calling can do that. You'll get 1 or maybe 2%. Maybe you could get 5% if you were very good. But the key thing is that whenever you go for a cold call, you need to have you need to have a next action. So your call will be, can we have a demo? Can we have a discovery call or something like that? And the team are getting a 33.6 response to that. So 9% of people saying yes, and then 33.6% of people are saying, I'll have a next action, another call. Now, that is exponential over any other, cold calling or any other cold outreach. So really, it's about what do people want to do? Do they want to disrupt, or do they want to be disruptive? Because the data shows that cold calling, yeah, you can do it, but there's now more efficient and effective ways of doing cold outreach. And the data is there. The data is available for people to come and look at. They can come and and look at it. They can talk to the people that are doing it. They can talk to the SDRs. So it's really a case of, do you want to be do you want to sell a market like it's 2023, or do you want to sell a market like it's 1980? And companies will make that choice, and the leadership will make that choice. But we always say that they need to communicate that to their staff, because it's only fair that their employees know that they want to be an analog 1980 company and not a digital 2023 company. Because what will happen is that the employees will go where they want to work, which is digital 2023 companies.
Absolutely, yes. And I think this is the way. There's no way we can change things. And the other thing, there's at some point I came up with, I think I made it, a syndrome, and I call it the grandparent syndrome.
Okay.
And probably you will recognize this scenario. when we were kids, our father tend to look at us in that hard way, or a little slap when we misbehave, right? Once, oh, I don't have any kids, but let's pretend I have kids. I have my kid who misbehaved, and I'm about to kind of make a bad face or to give him a little slap. And then my father, which meanwhile became grandparent, says, "No, don't slap the boy, don't slap the girl," right? So depending on the situation you are, you behave in the opposite way. This also happens with business people. Like when I'm the seller, I behave in a way that I hate when I'm a buyer.
Yes.
Like I have a sales company and I hate when sellers from other salesperson from other companies they approach us in a way that we do the approaches. So this is something that we should think. And there's in the forward, and by the way, give a big shout out to Mark Schaefer, and
Yes.
he's through a moment not so good, so a big hug to Mark from
Yes.
here, and a big shout out because he's an amazing guy, and it should be an honor for you that he wrote the forward. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
so one of the things that he wrote it here, and this resonates a lot with me, is, and this is a trend, unfortunately, when we discover a platform or an approach that allows us to be in a more insightful way with our customers, with our audience, our community, we tend to kind of shortcut things and try to automate. And as I mentioned before, one of the ways we we found it to humanize our company, it's to humanize it by automating. Your thoughts about this team, because this is kind of a trend, and these days we are seeing this AI fever that it's scaring but kind of exciting at the same time. But how do you feel about this tempting thing to go automating everything and kind of losing this human touch?
I think it's a mistake. I think that people, the mistake that people make is that they still want to sell and market like it's 1980. So what happens is that um, the way that we've sold and marketed to date is all about been about interruption. So cold calling, email, even advertising is I interrupt you and I pitch you my services. And the thing is that everybody goes to market in exactly the same way. They all say, buy my product because we're great. So what happens is that as the buyer has become more sophisticated, because we've all got one of these and we can basically go online and do all of our research, where we never could have done that back in 1980. When I first started in sales, a person would have to come to me as a salesperson to get any information about the company. We were rung up to send out brochures, but people still seem to think that that's like the case. And so what happens is that we think that if we throw as much mud at the wall, something will stick. And what happens is that people bring that to social media, and social media is a media to be social. It's not spam media or anything like that. It's a platform to have conversations. And anybody who works in business to business, to a certain extent, business to consumer, to sell what you sell, has to have a conversation. So what social media does, it gives us the ability to have conversations at scale, something that we can't do with interruption marketing. We can't do it with cold calling. We can't do it with spam email. We've got things like GDPR and rules and regulations that stop people doing mass spam mail ads like they used to. So what we need to do is that we need to understand that the business today, most of it requires us to have some sort of conversation. For me to be a buyer, I need to probably know, like, and trust you. That requires a certain amount of a relationship. Now, relationships in the modern world are quite different than they were maybe 10 or 20 years ago. For example, you and I have never met, but we've had a backwards and forwards with an email organizing this. We've had a number of conversations on social media. I kind of think that I know you, even though I've never met you. So um, if someone came to me and said, "What do you think about Mark?" I go, "Well, yeah, he's got a good podcast." And so my view about is that I know you, and I pretty much and I like you, and I trust you. So relationships are actually sped up, and we can actually build relationships very, very fast. So we're in this situation where what most organizations do is that they think, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to automate something. We're going to automate social media. Okay, right. And then the best question to ask people is, so how's that working out? Because most people give me the feedback is that all these people that are doing it have got no pipeline. Because as buyers, when we're on the other side, as you were with your metaphor, was that, I don't take cold calls. My phone tells me if I don't know the person ringing me, and I just ignore it. Because if the person wants to speak to me and I don't have their number, they'll leave me a voicemail. Tim, I need to get hold of you. Your car's at the garage, and I need to ring you about, whatever it is. Someone will leave a voicemail. It's the same with, I get inundated with email spam, and all I do is just create rules, and it just goes straight into the wastepaper basket. I get people saying, "You've never answered my emails." Well, no, I never saw them. They're straight in the wastepaper basket. And so people are still going through this process of thinking, well, okay, we're just going to automate it. We all cry out for relationships. We all cry out for human contact. And one of the things that we're very good at as humans is understanding whether we like someone or not. We can do that within about 10 seconds. Way back when we were walking on the Serengeti, and when we got up in the morning, the main thing that we had to do was not be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. Was if someone started appearing in the distance, we could work out before they got to us whether we thought that they were going to kill us or they were going to basically be our friend. So we knew whether we needed to fight or flight. It's a natural reaction that we have, and people crave human contact, and they crave conversations, and they crave the ability to build relationships. And what we do in the book is we explain that. Now, I run a podcast about AI. I'm not an expert on AI, but I know quite a lot about it. From an AI perspective, in all of the experiences that most people have had, now that the hype's died down, is the content that's being created from AI is rubbish. Now, there's a lot of people that actually rubbish content is actually pretty good for them. And therefore, I can understand people saying, yeah, we're using ChatGPT for content. Well, great. If you don't want anybody to read your content, that's brilliant. Because what people want when they read content is they want insight. They want to be told something they don't know. They don't want something that's boring, which is dull, that's created by a machine. And the fact that, we were told, ChatGPT is going to transform content, and then nothing happened. And so I'm not. I write all my blogs myself. I write at least 4 or 5 blogs a week, and the reason I do that is because people want content. That, for me, that's part of my prospecting process. I would argue that if your sales team and you as a person, as a leader, are not writing blogs, you're not prospecting. For the prospecting, the modern buyer, that is, and the modern job hunter and the modern investor, you will be invisible. And therefore, for me, writing the content, it's important it comes across as it's authentic. It's my sense of humor. It's my, when you read it, you can get a view from it. And if you read it and you say, no, I don't like Tim Hughes from this blog, well, brilliant. Then I've qualified you out, because you and I will never get on. So you'll never buy from me. So you won't ever come and talk to me. So part of this is also about efficiency, about making sure that you're not selling to people that you don't want to, or you never sell to. But yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes that sellers make is that they try and fit this view of framework of what sales is supposed to mean, rather than understand what we do as buyers ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. You came up with so many interesting topics, because this is something that I believe, and one of the things that I truly believe, it's about context, and you cover that in a really nice way, and I believe that this is something that probably automation will miss context, because let's automate this, and meanwhile something happened that changes the context, and then this content will be appearing and without any context, and
Well,
it's kind of
the thing, what I mean, if you take ChatGPT for example, all it does is that there's two pieces of AI. The first piece of AI basically takes looks at everything that's been written in human history and tries to come up with a response. In effect, it's trying to second guess what you're asking. So it's a bit like when you're on your phone and it suggests spellings to you and names, and things. So that's the first part of ChatGPT. It doesn't understand. It has no human sentience. Therefore, it doesn't understand sarcasm. It doesn't have a sense of humor, and it's unlikely to have that for at least 5 years. The other bit on AI that goes on top basically is a filter to what's been written. So, for example, people may remember that Microsoft put a piece of AI on Twitter, and they shut it down when it started saying that it thought that Hitler was good. And so, what it does with this piece of AI at the top is basically filtering what you ask for. So, there's certain things that it won't give you, certain information it won't give you. I'm trying to, it won't get, some people have used it to try and get ways of committing suicide, and it won't give you that information. And so you've got this, and both of these things are learning at the same time. But it has no human sentience. It has no understanding of sarcasm or sense of humor. It just does what you say it does.
Yeah, and the
And
thing
I
is,
don't think people want that.
yeah, absolutely. And the thing, Tim, is that when you have a consistent presence online, people get your tone. Like, for instance, when I read a book from Gary V, for instance,
Hmm.
I can imagine in my
In,
head
in,
you
in your
talk.
head, yes.
And the thing is, if you start reading this thing without this person tone, this is kind of not doesn't sound to me. Doesn't sound. So this is a pretty important, the thing. And we have here Cookbook Divas saying, I'm a blogger and I'm delighted to hear I'm not the only one that finds AI writing to be garbage and boring.
Yeah, absolutely. It's boring.
Yes, indeed. And let's talk a little bit about content and about how important it is, or they are the social media platforms, because they are an amazing listening platform.
Yes.
So sometimes, and this we hear this often, I don't know how I can help people, I don't know what to talk about, what to write about. How do you do this? Like, you start listening, and this is something important, and you mentioned this in the book about listening, and this was something that usually salespeople didn't do that often. Listening, they were more speakers than listeners. um, some tips so we can listen and then provide the insightful and relevant information.
Yeah, I think there's a number of ways that you can come up with ideas for content. That one of them is when you're talking to customers. I'm old fashioned and I use a notebook. And what I do is that I write the notes on the right hand side, but on the left hand side, I write. Someone may say something to me, and that will be a really good idea for a blog, and then that goes down on the left hand side. And I think that whenever you're talking to your customers, that your customers are going to be saying, you could ask them, what are the business issues that you're facing, and that gives you an opportunity to write blogs. I recently got an email from an organization that produced some research, and there's some blog ideas in there. McKinsey always have, will have some research, and they will have blog ideas in that. So there's always ideas for articles and content.
Great, great. Because and there's something that it's on your book as well, pretty important, and I believe this is the way, like, bringing people, not just the brand, bringing people. So this is this person in this brand, this is this person in this company, so people get to know people, not just a big building with nice windows and a huge door, these kind of things, because we want to connect with other people. We want to
Yes.
know if the CEO is from China, from India, from Portugal, from Morocco, whatever, because we tend to like it. And the thing is, Tim, and you mentioned this in your book as well, that we, even on LinkedIn, and I've been seeing this happening on LinkedIn, people going more personal than professional. This
Yes.
is, what do you
Yeah,
have to say about this?
we did some research on social media, and what we found is that first and foremost, people come to social media to be social. They actually don't come to social media to read brochures. A lot of companies think that with employee advocacy, what social media is about is basically taking brochures and pushing them out through the employees. What we find is that nobody, if you look at people that are doing that, they're getting little, probably no engagement. So they're not resonating with any of their audience at all. So I'm not saying it's a waste of time, but if you're getting zero return for money that you're putting in, it's close to a waste of time. What people are doing when they come to social media, that they expect to be social. So joining in conversations, starting conversations, sharing things that maybe you've learned, those sort of things. Now, quite often we get this debate about what's a business post and what's a personal post. And our view is, as long as that you're actually doing something professionally, you're not going to necessarily, there's certain things, personal things that happen to you, you're not necessarily going to share those. But where does anyone say that we can post something and we can't post something else? What we found in our research, that if you use humanized content, so content which is about you, probably has a photo of you on it and talks about you from a human perspective, that's going to get you far more engagement than maybe putting out a brochure, which will probably get you no engagement. Now, engagement, likes, and comments are important. The reason for that is that it enables you to have if I say, Marco, love the photo of you out playing golf on one of the Algarve's golf sites. Looks like you're having a really great time. Isn't the weather wonderful? Glad that you're keeping your handicap down to 7. And I write that. Because I'm writing that, that shows that you've connected with me, and I'm saying something which in effect is connecting with you. That's your opportunity to have a conversation with me. Now, you don't know whether I'm buying or not buying, but the fact of the matter is you've just got a conversation. And as we said earlier on, conversations create sales. I've got to have a conversation to create a sale. It may be you talk to me and I go, actually, I'm not, but my brother-in-law is buying what you're selling right now. You need to go, I'll connect you. So, so what we're looking for and craving for on social media is that that human connection, and then what we're doing is that we're getting a conversation. So we have a definition of what we call social selling, which I'll read out, which is it's about using your presence and behavior on social media to build influence, make connections, grow relationships and trust, which lead to conversations and commercial interaction. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm gonna buy from you, but I may know someone, or I may know somebody in the future that's going to buy. The other thing is that what often we often to say to salespeople will say, I don't want to post anything about myself, or I'm just going to post brochures. And you go, okay, so what's the best way for you to sell business? And they say, well, I take the customer for dinner, or I take them to a sports game. Okay, so when you go there, what do you do? Do you take a bunch of brochures under your arm? And they say, no, of course I don't. So, well, what do you do? Just sit and read the brochures out? They say, no, of course I don't do that. I talk to them about their family and what they like, what they do, and their the sports that they play, or the football team that they support, or whatever. I go, okay, it's exactly what we're doing here on social media, except you're doing it at scale. What we're asking you to do next time you go and watch your son play football is take a photo and post of it and say, say something about it. Now, that's not unprofessional. What you're doing is that you're showing something about yourself. What you'll find is that there's lots of other people, probably the people that you're trying to sell to, have probably also got sons or daughters who are also playing football, and immediately you've got a connection between the two. So what people need to understand is that content is about creating conversations and forming that connection, and then building that relationship. What we do know is that nobody reads brochures online. So if you're posting them, you're wasting your time. What we're looking for and we're craving for as human beings is human connection, human stories. My daughter's playing football. Wow, that's amazing. The fact, the fact, and or whatever it is that where you're making that connection. How can I support you in that? That's what we're looking for on social media.
Absolutely. And you were talking, and I was thinking about this. If we tend to do the brochure approaching, we tend to get a yes or no, and that's it. If
Yes.
we tend, and most likely a no. But if we get the other, go to the football, talk about your team, about how, if you played or not, that sport, wherever. One of the things that could happen is, okay, your product could be good or service, but what I need is this, and this, which could bring to you other business opportunities, new products, new services, because you kind of created this relation, this approach, this uh, um, good feeling that allows people to share with you, okay, maybe what I need is not exactly that, but this new situation. What do you think about? Because I believe that sometimes because we have this, not this more professional relationship, it's based on yes or no. If we have this more social, personal link, we could think, okay, this person, I really like them. Maybe right now this product or service is not what I need, but maybe with some fine tuning, they can get there.
You make a great point, Marco, which is what we see a lot, certainly in the IT industry. What they're doing is that they're pretty much burning through their network, and it is a yes or no answer. And right now, only 4% of organizations, well, 4% of organizations are looking for your products and services. So 96% of organizations are not looking for your goods and services right now, but they may do in the future. Or they may do if you did this or did this, as you in your example. So what people are generally doing when they're doing their outbound cold outreach at the moment is they're just looking for that 4%. And it's yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. classic, um, what when people would, door to door salespeople of knocking on the door. I've got these products in this. Do you want to buy it? No, right, okay. Next one, knock on the door, and whereas in most cases today, when you talk to people, they may know somebody that's buying it, or it may not be right for them right now, but it may be right for them in the future. And what we're seeing definitely with most cold outreach at the moment is that they burn all that possible people in the future. So what happens is that you probably will get a response right now. As I say, you're getting probably 1-2%, tops 5%. But what you're not getting ever is you're basically burning away the future of the company by doing that. And at some point, you hit a wall, and then suddenly everyone's going, well, there's no pipeline. No one will talk to us. Yeah, because you've annoyed everybody in the marketplace, and you've burned away all the people that could have come back and said, okay, I'm interested. Can we talk about it now? Good point.
Absolutely. And this takes me to something that it's here in your book as well. I'm gonna go a little bit broader with this example about that you gave here, that someone called someone else and they said, I already saw the videos on YouTube, I just want to know the prices. I don't need any
Oh
demo
yes,
video.
yes.
So
Yeah, this was a salesperson that basically got a phone call, and the person said, I want to buy the product. I'm trying to remember. It's an accounting system, so it wasn't cheap. It was like $100,000 or something. And they rang up and said, we've looked at the video, we've looked at the videos on the website and stuff, and we want to buy the product. How much is it? And they sold it. And that was probably now 7 or 8 years ago. So
okay,
this, the CEB, which is now Gartner, came up with this view that people are now 60-70% of the way through the buying process before they contact a salesperson. And I've got some research from SAP that probably says it's 80%. I mean, we all do it ourselves. We're going back to we don't seem to recognize as salespeople the way that we work as buyers. We've all got one of these. We don't like talking to salespeople. The social media and the internet is a great way of avoiding them, and we do our research using one of these. I remember sitting in recently in the cafe with my partner, and she said, "Why don't we go to Iceland in a couple of weekends?" I said, "Yeah, that's a good idea." So I said, "You look at the flights, and I'll look at the Airbnbs." And we're actually having a conversation, looking at the and everybody does that. We all go online and do our research.
absolutely. And we have here cookbook divas, and when I watch live streamers, I tend to come back or stay longer to live streamers who chat about themselves, not just focus on the product and be salesy. I feel a connection to them, and they don't feel spammy because I choose to watch them.
Excellent.
We have, yes,
And thank you for watching.
absolutely. Thank you so much. But there's something else about this example uh, made me think, Tim. One thing is this problem that we are facing today as salesperson, that our customers know better our products than us, because they go to the internet and they
Yes.
look for the information. And what I tend to say to them, why you're not the information source, because it's open to you as well. Because one of the things that people think is that there's this kind of information hubs that are producing this information, and I can't play in that game. Wrong. Because if people are looking for information, if you know that information, you could be the source. You can build this trust, this thing. And
So
just let me add another thing, because this was another huge monster when we talked about sales some years ago. Prices. Because we wanted to hide the price till the moment, I don't know, this was kind of, oh, I don't want to talk about price, it's too early, let's hit it, let's hide the price. And right now they only want to know the price. So what do you have to say about this team? Because sometimes we think that, oh, I'm not sharing my secrets with others, so I'm not uh, creating content because people will get my secrets and then I will lose my business. But at the same time we see people that share content. Probably you know him, Marcus Sheridan, that built his huge success on content, and one of the things he likes to talk clearly, it's about prices. So what do you have to say about this? Keeping the information and waiting for others to share the information, and then you don't build that trust, you don't build that confidence, that people know, oh, I just want to buy from you because you proved that you are an authority, that you know, I like it. And or you may lose the customer.
Yeah, so this company that I talked to you about previously that is doing the cold outreach, it took them 3 months, but they're now getting one piece of inbound every week. So that's where people are basically calling up and saying, we see what you're doing. Can you come and talk to us? And it usually means that that person, when I mean inbound, they're contacting and they're saying, we either we'd like to buy from you, or you may be on a shortlist. But the thing is that the likelihood that you're going to win is very much higher because they've actually done their research. Now, if you listen to any of Gary V's stuff, and I will add to Gary V's stuff, is that Gary says that people have set up marketing agencies off the back of what Gary has said, and he's very flattered. If you want to take all, I've shared everything. I've shared everything in my book. If you want to go and read all my blogs and set up a social selling agency, all the information is there. If you want to take the time to do that, and what people are looking for, we know that people are looking for experts. They're looking for someone that knows. What they're going out onto. We know that they're going out onto social media. They're going out and using search as well, and they're saying, I want to find an expert in this particular area. And when they find you, and if you're visible to them, and there's certain things that mean that most people, 99% of companies are invisible. And if you're visible, what happens is that they're looking for that expert to come and help them, and then they will walk towards you if they feel that you are in a position to walk towards you. So, for example, we have an example from Namas Consulting, which is one of our clients, where the person was searching on social media, and they walk towards the salesperson, which, in modern day time is transformational. The fact that you're walking towards the salesperson, because most salespeople we look at and we go, we don't believe you, we don't trust you, and I don't want to talk to you. And anyway, they walked towards that salesperson. There was a conversation, classic sales to buy a conversation, and that turned into a $2.6 million deal. So the fact of the matter is that there are people doing deals out there which are not just itsy bitsy stuff, but are multi-million, and they're doing them on social media, and we know that the buyers are out there. The data shows that, and therefore, people need to be doing certain things to attract those people, as well as to be able to walk towards those people if you're looking at cold outreach.
Absolutely. And that thing that you mentioned, being the expert, being that person that you think, when I need this, or even if someone is talking with us, oh, I have this problem, I have this situation, because this resonates with someone, that you read something, you listen to a podcast, whatever. This is important, and this takes me, I think you are reading my mind, because this takes me to another thing that I want to highlight about your book,
Yes.
which is pretty nice, is about sharing others content or creating our own content.
Okay.
Because sometimes we tend to get a little bit lazy, or because there are some guidelines wherever we try to shortcut. Okay, let me share this. Sometimes people they don't even write anything about that post. Like, okay, I saw this, I like this because blah blah blah. Uh, Maybe you should take a look at that if you are in this context, because sometimes there's something that we miss when we create a social media post is like creating context, so this could be relevant to people to read, watch, listen, whatever. And you mentioned this, that I think it's pretty important, because one, you're not being kind of lazy resharing something that it's already there, but at the same point you're making your point. Like, this is my opinion, these are my thoughts about this. What do you have to say about this, so people can understand if I want to become known, if I want to become trusted, if I want to sell something or whatever? Because sometimes I'm selling myself, like, okay, I want to get a job, and I think somehow we are selling something as well. uh, how important it is to come up with our own thoughts, our own opinions when we talk about social media.
You know, the modern buyer, the modern job hunter, the modern investor are all on social media. They're looking for something that's going to engage them, that's going to give them, that's going to be insightful, and they're looking for authenticity. So if you write it yourself, it's the best thing to do, because it demonstrates that you're the expert. Here are the top 6 things that I think are important to chief financial officers in telco or wherever it is that where you sell. Um, if you take someone else's content, then in effect you're sharing someone else's brochure. The content that was written for that audience, and it resonates with that person and that person's audience. It may not resonate with yours, so it's not so good. And sharing brochures is you're actually training people and the algorithm to ignore you. So I wouldn't recommend it. um, so there's different levels of it. In the book, I talk about 411, which is a method that I basically talk about, which is having sharing something about your business and the vertical or the business issues, and sharing 4 of those where people go, oh, that person's interesting. You get some insightful content, because we all pick up these and we go to, say, LinkedIn and go, boring, 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 boring. Oh, that's interesting. And every time I do that, everyone laughs. And I go, yeah, 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 it's just like that. And you say, so where are you on that? And they go, we're the interesting people. And you go, okay, I've actually looked at your LinkedIn profile, and you're part of the boring sect. People, we're talking about it. People know that they're looking for interest. This podcast, you get interesting people on, talk about interesting subjects. You ask great questions, and therefore it's a piece of content that's going to provide insight. That's what people are looking for. They're not looking for things that are scripted. They're looking for you, what you can say. And there's different ways of writing blogs. You can take if you don't, as I said earlier on, was it this week I found there's a McKinsey report came out in March this year about sales. I opened the report. I found something in there which I particularly resonated with me. I said, here's a McKinsey report. It says this. The fact that I'm quoting McKinsey means that I'm raises my, shows that I'm an expert. And I'm saying this is what McKinsey say. And in a way, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants because of the fact that McKinsey is saying it, but I'm adding something to it. And so you can create content in lots of different ways. There's an example. One of the example is one of our team. They actually created a post which was a picture of their son and him on the beach. It was during lockdown, and his son was 16. And they posted that. It only took him 10 minutes to create. And off the back of that, he got 6 C-level meetings. He put out 2 proposals, and he got 1 purchase order. Now, there's no other demand gen facility that you can use, cold calling, email marketing, advertising, that can get that type of response. Content, once you actually get used to it, and I guess it's like a muscle going to the gym. Once you start exercising your content muscle, you'll find that content actually comes to you very, very easily, and it's very easy to create content quickly, and put content out. And the worst thing that can happen is no one's going to watch it anyway.
Yep. This could happen, yes. And there's a thing that you mentioned before, and I believe it's pretty important. And sometimes we were kind of scared about it. It's kind of it's scaring. I think it's one of the best words to define this. But it has to be. This has to be made. Qualifying people, like, and I made marketing trainings for a while, and one of the problems I had was to explain to people, sometimes some people, they will not be your customers, and they were like looking at
Yes.
staring at me, what do you mean? So with that in mind, team, sometimes we tend to go a little bit kind of flat in our content, trying to satisfy or not hurt someone's feelings,
Mm.
or not kind of putting someone away from our content. How risky is that when we try to differentiate, and when we try to say to some people, which could be our customers, which are more than enough to make our business profitable, how dangerous it is to be too too flat. Let me say it like
I
this.
think it's the mistake that marketing make, which is that they try and be all things to all people, and they create content which is bland to try and do that. And all the research, the Edelman Trust Report, Gartner, all say what people are looking for is they're looking for this insight and this opinion. Now, the opinion that you have, that you give out, now you may think, you may not agree with my opinion, but that may not stop you from buying from me. But if you look, if we recently walked away from a piece of business, and it was very clear that the CEO was not going to get on with us. They didn't seem to have the same sense of humor as us, and it was like, this isn't just going to work. So in effect, what you're doing is that what salespeople do is that they run around trying to sell to people they're never going to sell to. And actually, by putting out your opinion and putting out your views clearly, certain opinions maybe need to be kept to yourself. But from a business perspective, we're very clear about what we believe in from a company perspective, and we put that out. And if people go, well, I don't believe, I still think cold calling is working. Well, fine. I didn't say cold calling doesn't work. But if you're going to carry on cold calling, fine, it doesn't bother us. We're not the company for you. What we're looking for are companies that want to innovate and want to be around in the next 10 years and want to disrupt and want a competitive advantage. They're the type of organizations that we want, and we explain that. And I think there's nothing wrong with putting that out, certainly on social media, within certain boundaries and guardrails.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, this is really important, that, and I think that if you as a viewer could get this insight about not trying to please everyone, kind of being too politically correct, could be not a wise decision. For instance, I when I started my live show, people said to me, "Lo, maybe you should use another kind of shirt, a tie, like look more professional." Whatever does this means, I don't know what this means, looking professional. I thought, well, one of the things I don't want is to, I don't want my live show to be the news,
Hmm.
TV news. So I will
It's
do this
it's you,
my
Marco.
own way.
This is you. This is
Yes,
your authentic you.
absolutely. And I think so far it went pretty well.
Yes.
That's the thing. Tim, we came to the end. So I'm going to ask you three reasons why social selling could be interesting for you.
Three reasons. Um, it's a the the book and social selling is a blueprint for the way people want to sell and market today. It's we know that the data shows it, and we've been able to prove it. But it's actually bigger than that. Because as I talked about earlier on, the modern job hunter is on social as well, and the modern investor. Everybody has moved from the analog physical world to digital. So if you want to if you want to get the most revenue, but if you want to attract the best people and be the employer of choice, you've got to do this as well. We've got clients that no longer pay for recruitment consultants and recruitment ads because they don't need to, because the people are basically coming to them and saying, I want to come and work for you. And this has fundamentally changed business. And all I'm asking with this book is that leaders, sales leaders, marketing leaders, and people in sales and marketing, what they do is they need to have a reason. They need to understand what social selling is, and they need to be able to go into a meeting and say, I'm. You may be for it, you may be against it, but you need to have an opinion about it. And this book is, in the world relatively inexpensive, and will give you that world view, and so you can have an opinion of whether you think that social selling and social media is good for your organization or not.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank
And
you.
because, and the thing is, sometimes this will be tough to finish because the thing, and if we're talking, and I was thinking, because sometimes we think my only professional network it's LinkedIn, and then I go to Facebook, to Instagram, and I post whatever I want. And the thing is, do you think that when someone wants to hire you, they don't look at other platforms than just
Of course they
LinkedIn?
do.
That's the thing. So the thing is, sometimes no, because my Facebook it's personal. Yes, but people they are not hiring the professional; they are hiring the person.
They're hiring the person. Of course they do.
that's that's the thing. So where can people find you, Tim, please, so they can get you?
So the best place to find me is probably on LinkedIn. I'm Timothy Hughes. I'm Timothy underscore Hughes on Twitter. And the book, we have mentioned it a couple of times, is on Amazon worldwide.
Perfect. And it's highlighted right now in the carousel. And by the way, with a 7% deal. So hurry up, get this book because it's pretty nice. Look how amazing it is with so many information. And
306 pages, yeah.
yes, yes, this is. And one of the things I like about these kind of books is that they are working books. And I want to,
Yes.
one of the things I do often is to underline, to draw some arrows like this is important. This is something that for me it's important. This feeling, this is a working book. This is not a novel.
Yeah. I've got people that have sent me pictures where they've highlighted all in the book, and they've got post-it notes in it. They carry it around in their bag with them all day. They refer to it, which is why I always say buy the book, don't buy the Kindle. I know a lot of people buy Kindles and stuff, but it is one where people have highlighted it and put post-it notes and stuff in.
Absolutely. So, Tim, thank you so much. I
Thank you so
think
much too.
we could be here talking for hours because this is so insightful. Oh my god, this is such an amazing topic, and you are such an amazing guest. Maybe
Thank
in the
you.
future, please hurry up bringing a new book.
I need to. I know. I'm actually just started conversations about the next one. But it'll take 18 months. So
Okay, so I will be looking at you.
I'll, I'll, I'll give you a call.
I will be stalking you so, to see if you're releasing a new book. Meanwhile, so I can have you here again because it was a huge pleasure, and this
Thank
was
you.
a so
And
insightful
it's
conversation.
been great fun, Marco. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It was a pleasure. Thanks to you. So thank you. Thanks to all of you listening, watching, commenting during this live show. Tomorrow I will be here. Hopefully, I will be here again with another live show. So don't forget to hit that follow button. And next, okay, next June 20th, I will have another guest. Stay tuned to know who it will be. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the rest of the week. We will be here back soon. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.